Hello, Rain. Hi, Dot. I don't know why that always strikes me as funny. Hi, YouTube. My big audience is on TikTok. That's why I'm always looking sideways. I don't know why Dot always cracks me up. Strength. Cute. Okay, so while we're waiting, I'd love to know, I'd just like to wait till I get a few people turning up. And I'd love to know where you're from. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. And gorgeous sunny day. I'm all disheveled today. I was at the gym this morning. I just came out of there really disheveled. My other curly hair people understand when you've got curly hair, you always look frizzy like when you go out in the humidity, just always frizzy. So yeah, I'm feeling very disheveled right now. My favorite coach. Oh, how sweet. And do you watch other coaches? Little Rock, Arkansas. Oh, hello, you've been here before, haven't you? Little Rock. Unless there's someone else from Little Rock. What was I saying? Shoot. Oh yeah. Do you watch? I don't watch any other lives on here. I don't even watch myself. But I mean, I don't watch lives on here. But yeah, I'm just curious. What else? What other lives do you watch? The only one that ever pops up on my feed is the gemstone one where they're digging into all these gemstones. It's really bizarre. I don't even know what they're doing. It's all these rocks like gemstones that they're digging into. That comes up a lot. But yeah, what other kind of lives do you watch? What's going on TikTok here that I don't know about? I love TikTok. Anyway. Okay, so we've only got a few people. This is my regularly scheduled live. I turn up. I never know when I'm going to turn up, except Tuesday nights at 7 and Saturday mornings at 10. That's my time in Vancouver, which is California time. So, West Plains, Missouri. Never heard of West Plains, not that I think. Watching you on repeat, LOL. That's cute. That would be on YouTube. That's why I put them on YouTube, because they're saved there. Oh, thanks so much. Appreciate that. I have a lot of sales lives pop up. And yeah, I guess you would. Yeah, I guess the sales lives, I can see that. Yeah. TikTok, I can't figure it out at all. I have no idea what I'm doing. I can't figure out any social media. So they're hard to figure. They keep changing the algorithms just to keep us all guessing, eh? But I never look into it anyways. Oh, boutique selling clothes. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, interesting. I should look more into that stuff. I should look up other lives to see what people do on lives. Okay, so let's get going. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on the link above, you'll see that you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that too. That's what makes it work. So your parenting questions, just get going here, and I'll answer as best I can. Sometimes I can't. A whole bunch of times yesterday, I said, that's only for coaching. I hate saying that all the time. But if it's something that's like more serious or crisis work or teenager stuff, it's often just like coaching one-on-one. You'd have to hire me to get a good answer, because I'd have to assess the situation first. But mostly it's stuff I can kind of give you a decent answer on a live. Okay, 20-month-old toddler won't stop hitting. Yeah, okay, they're going to try stuff, right? I actually have a mini course on that. It's up above in the link if you're interested in that. Otherwise, it's consistent corrective actions. Every time they hit, you say no, and you hold their hand for a second. You say no, and then you remove the fun or remove them from the fun. Or if they hit with a toy, you take the toy away. But you got to be quick with this stuff, because if you just sort of, as soon as I finish doing this, I'll go over and correct them. They're not going to remember. It doesn't work. It's got to be right in the moment. So consistent corrective actions right in the moment. I should add that. Consistent corrective actions in the moment, because they learn through repetition. They're not going to learn the first time. They might learn the 50th time. Give it a weekend or a week, and say, we're just going to correct it every single time. Here's the problem. If you do it 9 times out of 10, they'll remember the one time you didn't. I don't know what it is, but kids just remember all the mistakes you've made. I remember my son, he was a teenager, and he says, remember the time you did this? Remember, it was all the mistakes I've made. And I said, what about all the stuff I did right? And he went, what? They remember all the mistakes. My 3-year-old is kind of a bully to his baby brother, but loves all other babies, just siblings. Yeah, of course. No other babies are taking their parents away from them, right? So, of course, that makes perfect sense to me. I'm trying not to yell as much. It's hard. How do I stop myself from getting to that point? Well, I can't help you with that. That's like if you go to a diet center and how do I stop myself from eating chocolate? Well, they can't really help you with that. But the thing is that you're after the results here. You have to have that. You have to have your mind on the goal and say, you know what, this stuff just works. So you just have to. It's just difficult. Period. I can't. Parents ask me this all the time. How do I stop yelling? I don't know. Well, what I'm doing is I'm teaching you other things to do. So instead of yelling, you've got other things to do. So with toddlers, that's under the age of 3, it's consistent corrective actions. With kids 3 and over, you get them on that behavior board. And that's what you do instead of yelling. Plus, you're on that behavior board too. When they're 3 and above, you're on there. And your rule is always no yelling. If you yell, your rule is always no yelling. Very few clients do not yell. It's very rare that I get clients that don't yell. Actually, I had one last week. And it literally throws me off. I'm like, what do I do with you? It's that rare. Okay, 7-year-old son gets upset when he's asked to correct his school worksheets. How to address his frustration? Gets upset. Well, I don't know what you mean by upset. I'm assuming you react to that upsetness. Like what I mean is, he must do it because it works. You must. Let me think here. I don't know what you mean by upset. Does he have a tantrum or like what's he doing? He doesn't want to be corrected. Oh, okay. He doesn't want to be corrected. Gets upset when he's asked to correct his school worksheets. Do you mean by the teacher or by you? Who's he getting upset with? He doesn't want to be corrected. Who's he getting upset with? I don't quite understand it. So who is this, at school or with you? If it's you, let's assume it's you because you haven't answered right away here. Sometimes it takes a minute. So let's say he gets upset with you, you're trying to correct him. Let him make the mistake. Like I wouldn't correct him. Let the teacher catch the mistake and deal with it. But yeah, I wouldn't be correcting. Is that sort of what you mean? Okay. How to explain to a child why dad didn't call, we're separated? Yikes, that stuff's ugly. I don't know. I don't know the situation. I don't know how old the child is. Was he supposed to call on time? Does he always call on time? Does he never call on time? I need to know the situation. If you want my help with that, like I have to assess it before I'd know how to move forward. I wouldn't know what to tell the child until I know the situation. Is it a one-off or is it continual? Yeah, I deal with this kind of stuff. If you want my help, that again, here we go. That might be coaching. If you want to hire me, you can check the link above. But yeah, sometimes I just need to assess the situation. I can't give you a flippant TikTok answer. Some things I can, some things I can't. 22-month-old daughter screams a lot for no reason. How can I stop this? You don't stop it. You ignore it and it will stop itself. So you can't stop anyone else from doing something, basically. But yeah, you ignore it, so you're not feeding it. They usually outgrow that kind of stuff. They lean into what works and they lean away from what doesn't. And getting any attention, annoying you, etc., works. Often kids who try, and then parents say, well, why are they always trying to ignore me? And I say, because you're not meeting their needs. When you're meeting their needs, that means you're spending time with them. They feel like you want to spend time with them. That's a big part of it. Loving your children isn't enough. Enjoying them is part of it. It's not enough for kids. They know you love them, but they want to be enjoyed. So, yeah. I'm not saying that's why she's doing it, though. Yeah, it just might be fun. But that's why they do it. That's why they want to upset their parents. Any attention is better than no attention. But if you're already meeting their needs, then I would ignore that. And I'd go, whoops, and just sort of look away. How do I get her to have quiet time in her room? Naps? 2-year-old. Oh, 2-year-old. Oh, well, 2-year-old's starting to fight her naps. Maybe she doesn't need them anymore. Both my kids stopped regular naps at 12 months old. They had accidental naps, and they often did nap, but they didn't have regular naps after about 12 months old. So I'm suggesting your toddler might be like mine, where they just didn't need naps. So if they're fighting it, that's telling you something. What about whispering back to a screaming toddler and saying, "Oh God, no, why would you do?" You mean the mini therapy session? I hate that stuff. You got me going here. Yeah. That's like saying, use your words. Yeah, I hate all that stuff. Yeah, I would not. I would never do that. Never. Use your indoor voice. I wouldn't do that. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying I wouldn't. My regulars know exactly what I'm thinking right now. I want to go on a big rant. I hate that stuff. I really do. Some mini therapy sessions discussing stuff with them. Yeah. Their toddlers are all about actions, not words. They don't want therapy sessions. Don't try and reason with a toddler. Good luck with that. I think most can agree adults need the nap. It depends. My kids were really respectful because I worked hard on this stuff. So by the time they were really respectful, so I didn't need a break. We had no family around or anything, and I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't get a break from my kids. It was years before I had any time away from them. But that it was easy because they were respectful. So yeah, once you're a leader, it gets easier. Plus, I could go on and on about this one. But yeah, if you're a really fun parent and then you say, look, scram, I need some time to myself, the kids just toddle off and do it because they're so full of being enjoyed anyway that it's okay to demand that they just go off and do something on their own. Like my mom used to say that, scram, I'm busy. Oh, okay. Didn't hurt my feelings at all. I felt very loved and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I understand that. I understand, especially if you've got hyper kids. My kids weren't hyper. So if you've got hyperactive kids, yeah, you need a break. So get them some, there's all sorts of, I do this stuff with kids who have ADHD, and you teach them how to do calm stuff like artwork, kinetic sand, slime, all that kind of artwork. And you say, okay, now we're going to do this, and get it very organized, set it all up on the kitchen table somewhere they can make a mess and have it very organized. Say, now we're going to do this. And then just sort of keep it all quiet, keep it down, but just like artwork kind of stuff. So you have to teach them how to do calm activities. Parents are always trying to stop their kids from doing stuff they don't like, but you have to teach them how to do stuff you do like. So calming activities is one of those, but you got to meet their needs. If they're hyperactive, you got to run them around the park for an hour, and then you can do the artwork, that kind of thing. Felt like I was rambling on there. I feel kind of rambly this morning. Why am I doing that? Okay, focus. Yeah. My child is 14 months and cries every time I drop her off at daycare for the last 4 months. That's tough. That doesn't usually last that long. She's only 14 months old. You just got to do the dump and run. And the daycare workers, how long does she cry for? It's usually very quick. But do the dump and run really fast. Bye, sweetie. I'll see you later. And then get out of there as fast as you can. The longer you dawdle when you're leaving, the longer their cry usually. I have a very up and down schedule. My kids are so hyper. Yeah, if school was like that, it wouldn't work. Kids need routine. They need schedule. I'm very much like that. My morning routine is like law for me. I can't do it 5 days a week. I have to do it 7 days a week. I'm very much like that. And I'm not good with the rest of my day. It's funny, my daughter and I were talking about this. And I was saying my morning routine, I should keep adding stuff to it because I'm brilliant at following a morning routine. So now I'm going to the gym every morning. I've added that to my morning routine. I've got this huge list of stuff I do. A lot of cleaning. I love cleaning and organizing. So a lot of it's that. And then where I go after the gym is a morning routine also. And so my daughter and I were laughing that we should just stretch it out for 10 hours. So keep adding everything into my morning routine. But I work very well that way. I think I got a lot of little kid in me in a way. And kids love schedules. They love to know what's coming. If your schedule's all up and down, your kids are all hyper, it's a sign that maybe they need some consistency. Okay? And even if you do have if you can't help it, you have to get systems in place. So if your schedule is up and down, I would make it very, very, very visual. Have it all written out, color-coded, show what time it is now, where you're going to move the magnet on the board, show where you are now, so the kids know what's coming. It's the surprises that tend to throw them off. So yeah. Sibling bickering for, yeah, that happens all the time. Just separate them for periods of time, but you got to be consistent with this stuff. So you say to them, okay, you can't get along, you come with me. And you take the older one, start with the older one. Say, you come with me for 5 minutes and just have them in the, let's say you're doing the dishes in the kitchen. They can just be, you're just chatting. Don't discuss the problem. You just deal with the problem, but you don't discuss it. That pool story that I tell pretty much every single live is a perfect example of why we do not discuss what we don't like. We discuss what we do like. We bring out the good kid. We deal with bad behavior, but then we focus on the good kids. So when you've separated those two fighting siblings, you've taken the older one out for 5 minutes. They're standing in the kitchen beside you, just chat about their day, chat about anything but the fight. Then, okay, 5 minutes is up. Go back, have fun. Watch them like a hawk. The next time they go at each other, take the younger one out. Go back and forth and back and forth. You get so good at this, they're just going to learn, hey, wait a minute, these will stop fighting. And they'll just sort of learn how to stop fighting. That's one method. I've got lots of other methods, but I don't like to throw them out there unless I know exactly what you're going through. So I tend to use other methods more in coaching because you don't want to start with the other methods. They're more, if that doesn't work, then we go there. So I don't want to give you that here on TikTok, because I don't want you going there first. I want you doing this easier one first. I have them go outside and run, then I have them color. Perfect, Jeannie. That's exactly what I always say. You got to meet their needs and manage their wants. So if they need to get some energy out of them, you got to take them to the park. You know what's really funny is I'll talk to parents. They'll say, well, I did that. It didn't work. Yeah, if you've got hyperactive kids, you can never wear them out, but you can meet some of their hyperactive needs. But you're never going to wear out a ADHD kid. You're just never going to. Anyway, and that's fair enough. I mean, they could just be wired all night long. Anyway, but you got to teach them how to calm down. Anyway, I'll talk to parents and say, I took them to the park for a whole hour and they didn't go. I said, well, okay, what'd you do at the park? They went on the teeter-totter and then they went on the swing. Where is the exercise? They're just sitting there both times. Have them swing 3 times, then run around the swing set 3 times. That's how you wear them out. Like when I used to work with hyperactive kids, they weren't just sitting on a swing. They were, okay, 1, 2, 3, now get off. We're going to run around, chase each other around the swing set 3 times. Stuff like that. So think about it. Are you just pushing them in a swing or are they actually getting some energy up? I'm amazed how many parents do that. Oh, I took them to the park for their exercise. What'd you do at the park? They sat on the swing. I pushed them. So it's not exercise. Oh, how sweet. Nels, I finally got my 3-year-old to go to sleep by herself. Thank you for your advice. Good for you. You put in the work. Was it a hell of a night? It's usually one night of sheer hell. I always say the bigger the storm, the bigger the lesson. So everyone wants the rainbow. Everyone hires me for the rainbow. I always say, buckle up because there's going to be a storm. Kids are going to fight back before they're going to give into your leadership, unless you're just starting out and they're little. But after a few years, if they've been in charge and you haven't, they're going to fight back. And that's good. The bigger the storm, the bigger the lesson. Like whenever I was working with kids and they didn't know what they were up against, because I'm a good leader, right? And they'd fight me or they'd say something snotty to me, and I'm like, oh, bring it on. Because that's my opportunity to exercise my leadership. You don't exercise it when everything's great. You exercise it when it's not good. So that's my opportunity to set myself up as a leader. And kids just like that. They catch on really quick. Like, I don't take any crap. I lead with fun and I lead with humor. When I was mentoring troubled teens, I lead with humor. And with little kids, it's fun. And it's all humor. It's all fun stuff. Because I'm like that. Well, you make me laugh, I'll follow you anywhere. I'm really humor-based. Like I love to laugh. So, and most kids are like that too. So there's a real power in being fun with kids. And so, yeah, I'm fun, but not when they're naughty. I ain't fun at all. And they learn that really quickly. Oh, yes. Oh, Nels. But now she knows. Okay, perfect. Oh, yes, 2 nights of hell. Bedtime battles is usually hell. It's usually one really bad night. The worse the night, the better it is. Like what I mean is the bigger the storm, the bigger the lesson, right? So if they really fight you for hours that first night, often they won't fight you at all the next night. But yeah, usually it sort of drags out a little bit more, but it's usually one really bad night. So good for you. You put in the work. Good for you. And it worked. Now you're ready for anything else, right? Once parents see that things work, oftentimes parents will hire me time and time again. They'll say, because their kids get older. And they say, well, that works. So now we're in the next stage. Now they're getting bullied at school, or now they're online and there's problems online, or now they won't do their chores or whatever. So things come up throughout the years. But once I can tell, when parents come back to me after they've had success with something else, they'll come back to me and they're just ready for it. They're like, yeah, okay, bring it on. Tell me what to do. So now, Nels, you already know you can be a leader. So now everything else will get easier, right? Because it's never about kids, it's about you. You're setting yourself up as a leader. Once you learn these skills, they just get easier and easier and easier. Like I said earlier, when a kid acts out with me or a troubled teen is snotty to me, I'm like, bring it on. I know how to deal with it. So that's my opportunity to exercise my leadership. So any bad behavior to me is an opportunity. It doesn't bother me at all, because I know I can take care of it. I know I can get respect. So yeah, good for you, Nels. Good for you. Okay. How do I feed my picky eater toddler? He's 2.5 and doesn't, yeah. 2.5. I can't give nutritional advice because I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor or pediatrician or anything like that. But what I can tell you is what I did with my kids. I'm kind of a health food nut. And my kids, we didn't have any, I call it filler food. It's not even food, really, just filler. I didn't have any junk in the house, like nothing. I didn't have many packaged foods or anything. So I made everything from scratch. So this was my kids' choice. You can have this healthy food or that healthy food. So they just learned. It's the fact, generally, now this is a little bit controversial, but because I'm not a nutritionist, so I kind of feel awkward talking about this, but I did find that when I had friends who had a lot of crap in the house, their kids were pretty picky because they knew that there was that sugar and salt fix sitting in the pantry waiting for them, whereas my kids didn't have that. So, you know what I'm saying? Like their taste buds are kind of out of whack. Once you get kids addicted to sugar and salt, it's kind of hard to give them broccoli. Whereas my kids would happily eat broccoli because there was no ice cream waiting for them. I'll tell you a funny story. My son, and I'm not saying you have to be as radical as me, and I wasn't perfect. There was, I messed up sometimes. Like there was some stuff that every so often we'd buy junk. And their dad was the treat master, we used to call him. I was the leader. He was the pleaser parent. He was the treat master. So he would take them out for treats and stuff like that. And that was his role. That was fine. But I didn't tend to do that. So, because you got to give him something, right? Like I was the leader. So that was his thing. He was the treat master. But my kids would go to birthday parties and I'd say, have at it, eat whatever you want. They always came home with stomach aches. And also I can remember my son came home from a party or like a birthday party or something. And he goes, their pizza was really weird. And he says the sauce was red. Well, I always snuck in mashed up spinach, and I pureed spinach and threw it in my pizza sauce. I made all the pizzas from scratch. So our pizza sauce was brown. He thought that was normal. I had healthy stuff everywhere. Wheat germ, hemp seeds. It was in everything. My poor kids. Oh, well, they survived. My daughter has a nutritional, what's she called? A holistic nutritional degree. She doesn't use it right now, but she loves. So, they grew up. They understand healthy food. How to help a kid that blurting out at school. Oh, how old? And that, stuff that goes on at school. Here's the thing. When you're a good leader at home, it melts into school. It goes everywhere. Your kids will be under your leadership umbrella everywhere they go. When you have a leader at home, they respect you. They respect everybody. It's just the way it is. So work on your leadership skills at home. If they're blurting out just because they get all excited, just say, stop doing that. And they respect you and they won't do it anymore. But generally stuff that happens at school is a reflection of what's happening at home. Generally. They're usually better at school than they are at home, by the way, because there's a few reasons. One of them is the teacher usually knows how to be a leader. Also or an authority. They're more the authority rather than the leader. I teach leadership, not authority. And also social pressure. It's embarrassing to act out at school when you get in trouble and other kids see it. So, there's a few different things going on. And it's embarrassing because they're not as comfortable when they're at school. So work on what's going on at home. That might help. Well, I need to know the age, Isaiah, what to do when my son says no and you're telling him to do something. When I tell a kid to do something, I would never repeat myself. I would never do that. Okay, get your shoes on. We're heading out the door. If a kid said no to me, they would be out the door and I'd have their shoes in my hand, but I'd be dragging them if I had to. But yeah, once I say something, it's going to happen. And the thing is that you got to make sure you're being fair and reasonable, though. Like, are they right in the middle of watching their favorite show and you haven't got it, you're not organized, and all of a sudden, come on, we got to get dressed. And, that's not fair and reasonable. I'm very organized and I'm very into routines. So my kids were all set, like they already understood routines. I'm very organized. So be fair and reasonable. If you know you are, say we're going to be leaving in 5 minutes, so you got to be dressed before we leave. And if they weren't, I would have picked them up under my arm in their pajamas and tossed them in the car. I remember once, I don't know how old my son was. I can't remember, 9, 10, maybe 12 even. And he was running late, getting ready for school. And my rule was we're getting in the car at 8:45, whatever it was. And so I said, okay, we're going. And I don't know what he was doing. He was dawdling or something. I don't remember exactly how all this went, but I remember we were laughing. And so I said, okay, we're going. And all I see is him racing down the hall, and he's got a hanger with his uniform on it because they wore uniforms to school. And he's in his pajamas and he's running out the door. He gets in the car in his pajamas with his shoes, his bag, everything. But he wasn't dressed. So my daughter and I were cracking up. And so I said, okay, now, and he knew that when I say we're going because they had lots of warning. He knew the drill. And so we get in the car and I'm cracking up. So I said, I know you'll be getting dressed in the car, in the back seat on the way to school. I do not want to see that seatbelt loosen at all. It's a safety issue, right? You should have seen him trying to get dressed. He got completely dressed without even loosening the seatbelt. We just had a blast. God, that was fun. I love parenting. I had a blast. It was the most fun I ever had. I miss it. Oh, God. When I ignore my okay, you're going to hate my answer. Ruby, when I ignore my 2-year-old when she keeps asking for something after I said no, is it damaging to them? What? Damaging to them? They keep asking? No. No. Use your words. Oh, don't. Oh, God. Oh, you were laughing. Okay, you're not getting me started. Okay, good. Thought you were giving advice to use your words. 4.5-year-old has been hard. I've been getting attitude, not listening. Yeah. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. You set yourself up as a leader. That will not happen. It just doesn't. So it's just a sign. It's a tell. It means that you're not a leader. They don't respect you. That's all it is. Work on your leadership skills. I have a whole course teaches you how to be a leader in 5 weeks. That's linked up above if you're interested in that. If you want more, you have to hire me for coaching. That's one-on-one attention. And then just if you don't want to pay anything, my behavior board is completely free. The results all vary depending on obviously the price, right? So, but the free one, lots of people are getting results with that all by themselves without me, but it's completely free. So yeah, it's just a tell. Remember, it's never them. He's learned you've taught him how to give you attitude for sure. Okay, you got a 2-year-old that won't stop crying. I don't know what's going on there. Like if they don't stop crying all day long, you're obviously not meeting their needs, but I don't know what you're doing. So I can't help you. Like you're not meeting their needs. Yeah, but I don't know what needs you're not meeting. So I can't help you with that. If you've got a 2-year-old crying all day long, yeah, you're not meeting their needs. I'll tell you what, my top 5 toddler tips. These are my top 5 tips if you've got a toddler. I have to read them out because I had 3, then I had 4, then I had 5, then I had 4, I'm back to 5. So I tried to amalgamate 2, it didn't work. Okay, number 1 is child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is enter their world to connect with them. This is where I'm suggesting you might not be meeting your child needs. Don't connect with a 3-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Connect with them. Get in their world, play with them, have fun with them. Not in your world, in their world. Number 4 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They don't make any sense yet. They're crazy. Well, they're not. It's not so much they're crazy, but they're just not sane yet. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed in there. Their brains are just forming. If you've only been in the world for 2 years and for one of those you're a potato laying on a mattress, I mean, come on, don't expect too much from them. It's your expectations of your toddlers that's out of whack. And then number 5 is stop the mini therapy sessions. When you're correcting them, it's always about actions, not words. These mini therapy discussions, talking about their feelings, their emotions. Toddlers do not need therapy. They need actions, consistent corrective actions, because they learn through repetition. Okay. So I just got a whole bunch of I'm trying to go back here because if people continue, I want to figure out what they were saying. Thank you. I know I've been so stressed lately, rubbing off on him for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Parenting's tough. You know, it's funny because parenting's the hardest job in the world with the least amount of training, yet everyone expects you to be an expert, especially you. Does that make sense? Think about it. Does that make sense at all? That's why I'm here. I'm teaching this stuff. I had tons of experience with kids before I had my own. I just wrote that down to remind people. Parenting's the hardest job in the world with the least amount of training, and yet everyone expects you to be an expert, especially you, right? Especially if you're parenting out of trauma. Yeah, someone here is giving advice. I was just making sure it was stuff. I would see if I agreed with it. Sometimes people give advice on my live, and I'm like, no. Not to say it's not appreciated, but it's like, that's not my advice. I don't agree with it. I love watching you because you speak my language. Yeah, and you got to find someone who resonates with you, because I'm sure there are people who love me and there are people who hate me. That's life. That's completely normal. Plus, you don't want to, if you never want to appeal to everybody, because then you're not making a difference. You're being whitewashed. It's sort of mild. I don't want to be mild. I want to be like hardcore. Here's what I believe, and I really want to have a strong opinion on parenting, because I believe in this. I believe in what I teach. I've worked with hundreds of kids for 51 years now, and I just get them. I just do. So it's heavily experience based. And I'm very passionate about this because I know there's so many parents out there struggling, and I'm here to help you. But if I don't resonate with you, move on. Like you'll never do what I recommend anyway. So why would you hang around? But most of those people have left. I don't get a lot of people arguing with me anymore. God, that was fun. I won't go on about it, but when I first came on here, I blew up overnight. And the people fighting with me, like a lot of my competitors and that, I didn't say anything back, not once, not ever. Oh, they hated me, they even tried to get rid of me. And I thought, ooh, I'm making a difference. They're the ones who kept me on here. I loved it. Because if you're not shaking things up, what are you doing, right? Okay. Why don't you care about your looks? Just a question, not judging. Well, is that because you watch my personal channel? I talk about that a lot. I'm assuming Sam watches my personal channel. I talk about my looks a lot, why I don't care about them, and why I don't like makeup, why I don't do my hair, why I don't dress fancy. I talk a lot about that. And I'm just going to touch on this because I think it's an important thing to teach your children. I had a lot of attention when I was young. I had my day. I was cute when I was young, and I'm 62 now. And so I had my day. I had all that. Nothing about my looks ever got me anything that I valued. Does that make sense? My looks, I got a lot of attention when I was young, but my looks never got me anything I valued. And I'm not superficial at all. So, but yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Plus, I work on the bull, not the lipstick. Anything that I like makeup and all that, that's just lipstick. I work on the bull. My whole life revolves around health and fitness. If someone was to say to me, well, you don't look very fit, I would be upset. But if they said to me, you're ugly, I'd go, whatever. You can't, looks aren't something you can ever take pride in. You're just born with the way you look, and that's it. So I kind of taught my kids that, like my daughter doesn't like wearing makeup. She doesn't do much. She's a beautiful girl, but she's sort of has that same thing. She leads with her personality, not her looks. So if I wore a lot of makeup and that, I would send a message that isn't me. I'm not superficial. You either like me for the bull, the lipstick. If you're after the lipstick, go somewhere else. That's not me. Does that make sense? So that's what I kind of taught my kids. But yeah, I'm hardcore. My life revolves around health and fitness. It just revolves around it. So, but yeah, that's important to me. Fitness and health are very important to me. Yeah, when I was younger, I couldn't go out anywhere without makeup. Now I'm almost 30. I've switched. The funny thing is that I'm very comfortable with the way I look now. Like I'm comfortable, I've always kind of been confident, and I'm very confident with my appearance and the way I present myself. I never think about it. But the funny thing is, I'm more confident now about how I look when than I was when I was younger, and I'm like, I don't look anywhere near as good as I did when I was younger. Isn't that funny? You get old and you're like, oh, whatever. You're confident. When you're young, you tend to all you see is your flaws. Now I look in the mirror, I don't think about it. But when you're young, all I did was look in the mirror and see my flaws. How dumb is that? I think every young person does that. That's just part of being young. But yeah, I really tried to put that on my kids: is look past the lipstick, look at the bull. Anyone who's trying to impress you, run. There's something. If people try and impress, there's something wrong. So yeah, just be yourself, be nice, and put that forward. But yeah, when people try and impress, run. Unless you like that. Unless you're trying to impress also. But yeah, I tried to teach my kids that. That sort of was important to me. Yeah, I agree. You can't change the way you look, but you can be healthy. Also, um, you can't take credit for something you were born with, right? Like you can take credit for being a good person, but you can't take credit for just your exterior. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you a good example of that. My son was labeled as gifted when he was young. And I had friends who said, oh, and they used to say, oh, you're so, he's so gifted, or his teachers would always fuss over that. And I said, no, don't, please. If he's nice, fuss over that. Because being gifted, being beautiful, that's something you're born with or you're not. So you can't take any credit for that. Right? And anyway, I'll tell you a cute story. My son was in grade 2, and his teacher called me on her lunch hour to tell me this. She thought it was so cute. She goes, I said to him, why are you so nice? And he seriously said, Mommy makes us be nice. And I'm like, you're darn right. I always focused on be nice, be a good person. If I used to say, if I ever see you sitting down on a bus and there's a disabled or an older person standing near you, watch out when you get home. So I always taught them to be nice people. Anyway, you do your best, right? Enough about looks. It's my live. I can talk about whatever I want. Does a 1-year-old understand? No. Yes, they do. But do they listen to it? No, because they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. Do I want to tell the sandbox story? Yeah. No, they're just working on impulses and what they want and urges. So they understand it. But you're asking, what you mean is, are they going to follow it? Probably not. No. It's all about actions. Words don't mean anything to toddlers. It's consistent corrective actions. And they learn through repetition, because they learn through that knee-jerk reaction. If they touch a hot oven 50 times, they might not touch it the 51st. If they touch a hot oven the first time, they're going to touch it the second time. So they learn it repetition, and it's a lot of it, a lot of it. How to cope as a parent with a 4-year-old learning new different influences. She started pre-K last week. Here's the thing. If you're a strong leader at home and they really look up to you, no one else influences them. It's leadership. Children need, crave, and want a leader. If you've filled that basket at home and their leadership basket's full, they've got you to go to, you're a safe place to land, they can tell you anything and everything. They're not susceptible to being influenced by anyone outside. It's just the way it is. Until they become teenagers, then it starts to shift and change. But yeah, when you're a good leader at home, they're not susceptible to bullies. peer pressure, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians, none of that. They come to you for all that. So that's what you do. Set yourself up as a leader. Nice never got me anything. Keep doing it. I believe in karma. It might take a while. Plus, it just feels good. I'll tell you a funny story, though. My son, and we both had this experience many, many times. And I say, when you approach a disabled person, always say, can I be of assistance? Don't grab them and try and help them across the street, especially blind people. They're counting, right? So I will never approach a blind person. Like if I see something coming up that might throw them off, I'll never approach them unless I have to, or unless they're stopped, because they've stopped counting. So think about that. Anyway, son was trying to help this blind person on a bus, and she hit him. She whacked him. So we thought that was pretty funny. So you said being nice never got me anything. Yeah, he's been beaten up when he tried to be nice. And one time I was helping another blind person. They got caught in the wrong side of the door. They were caught in this no man's land at this big mall door. And so I said, excuse me. I said, here's my arm. I took their hand, said, here's my arm. I'm going to help you out. And they did the same thing. They tried to hit me. It's a good story, so it was worth it. Can you spoil a kid by being super kind to them all the time? You meet their needs and manage their wants. By managing their wants, you're correcting bad behavior. That's still kind. Discipline is kind. Discipline is kindness. I did a video on that a week or so ago. Discipline is kindness. If you're not disciplining your kids, you're giving them a disservice, because they need to be guided. So meet their needs and manage their wants. 3 tips on becoming a good leader. I'll give you the top 2 tips, and they go right through the teen years. The top 2 tips are listening. Listening, I'm going to give you 3 actually. Listening to understand and show, understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. You become a really good listener. Never tell your kids what to do. This is still tip number 1. So when you're listening to them, they have a problem, say, well, I don't know what to do. Let's figure it out together. Okay? So you never tell them what to do. You open up the door for them to discuss it. So really good listening skills, number 1 by far with any age. Number 1 is listening skills. Also, be fun. Connect with them in their world, all ages, even with teenagers. I've told the story many times about me becoming furniture with my son when he was 15 years old, and he started changing, started turning into a man. I didn't understand men until I raised one, and I'm still not too sure about them. But the one thing he taught me about men is when we say we're not thinking about anything, we're not thinking about anything. So anyway, those are 2. And the third one is with teenagers is negotiate pretty much everything. Give them a say in how their life goes. So yeah, leadership, you meet their needs and manage their wants. Okay, their needs are having fun with you too. Their needs are discipline. Managing their wants is the discipline, but yeah. Discipline is kindness. Think about it this way. When you're self-disciplined, you're bragging about it. Hey, I'm really good at self-discipline. Discipline is good. It's a positive. It's parent-led discipline, but it's still good. Does TV electronics affect behavior? Well, I'm sure the jury's still out on that. That would be a science experiment there. I don't know. They'd have to test people over a period of 100 years back in the day and now and figure it out. So yeah, I'm not sure. And I'm still not too sure about them. Yeah, I can't figure men out at all. I really can't. I understand them more since raising one. The one thing I really didn't understand was when you say to a guy, what are you thinking? And they say nothing. I thought they were thinking and they just didn't want to tell me. But it turns out my son said, no, they're not thinking about it. And yeah, that was one thing. I thought, how can you be not thinking about anything? Like for a woman, that's just like, what? We can't shut our brains down. I think we can't because we're the ones who have kids and we have to be, thinking all the time because you have to think for someone else too. It's just how we're, born. I think I made that up, but it makes sense to me. Is repetition the way to correct hitting with an 18-month-old? Yeah, it is. Just say no and then just remove the fun just for a few minutes or a minute. Say no. And then every time they go to hit, don't let them keep hitting. You watch them. Every time they go to hit, you say no. And they're going to start getting mad, by the way. But that's okay. Let them process that. That's how they process things. Men are so cool when it comes with that. They don't really, not really big. Men are, the great thing about men, they're fixers. Because I work with a lot of men in coaching. And I understand men often don't want to hire me because it sort of emasculates them that they can't handle their own family, but then they'll go out and and they'll learn from an accountant or whatever. It's the same thing, right? But parenting's personal. They take it very personally when their wife wants to hire me. Not all of them, but some of them. So I explained to the wife, she says, why does he not want to do any of this? And I said, because men are fixers. And if they can't fix their family, they feel very frustrated by that. So every time I say that, I say it right in front of the man. And the man goes, yep, that's how I feel. And then I tell them stories about all these really successful men who run huge corporations and they still hire me. So you can be a fixer, but still you just don't know a lot about parenting yet. That's all. 4-year-old kid who hits, no, it's not the same. It's not consistent corrective actions at all. That only is under 3 years old. That happens, the consistent corrective actions. That's with toddlers. Toddlers are under 3. 3 and above, it's on the behavior board. No hitting is the rule. Check it out. The behavior board's completely free. It's up in the link above. Everything I have to offer is up in that link above. Help, my 3-year-old laughs when I take him away from fun. What do I do? Just keep doing it. He's just testing you. Yeah, it's I don't care. It's not real laughter. I made myself laugh. That was laugh. Some people have no internal monologue. I run on emotions. I'm all heart, no head. Some people are all head, no heart, or sort of more one way or the other. But we're all sort of wired differently. I definitely run through emotions, but my emotions as I've gotten older just calmed right. Like I don't have ups and downs anymore, really. It's very rare. And I've never really had much of a temper or anything. But yeah, we all sort of are different that way in the way that we process things. And some of us are very comfortable with emotions and some of us aren't. So yeah, I would say men are more likely to not be comfortable with emotions. They tend to avoid confrontation. And some women, we don't like it either. But yeah, men don't tend to run as much with the emotions as women do. But they also suppress emotions. So when you're raising boys, you kind of want to make sure they can tell you anything and they can openly talk. And then they'll turn into men and they'll change, but I'll never forget the day my son was 14, and every single morning I'd get up and I'd say, mornings, he'd be in the kitchen sink, and I'd say, morning, sweetie. And he'd go, morning, mom, with the cracking voice. And I'll never forget this. He was 15, and by this time he shot up 6 inches in 6 months. He went to 6 feet tall and turned around. And when I said, morning, sweetie, he turned around. He just looked different. And he went, morning, mom. He turned into a man like overnight. No more voice cracking, which was so much fun. Anyway, I used to mimic him all the time, and we'd all laugh at it. And yeah, I know. But yeah, he just turned into a man overnight. It freaked me out. The way he looked at me and everything, he just turned into a man like that. Whew. And people ask quite frequently, what's harder to raise, boys or girls? I have not found any. It's gone one way. I've been doing this now for 17 years. I have not seen it go one way or the other at all. One consistency, though, is when I'm hired in the teen years to work with parents of teenagers who are in trouble. The girls are often 12 to 16. Boys are almost always just turned 15, or they might almost be 15. It's bizarre. I mean, sometimes they're 18, sometimes they're 13, but it's really bizarre. I can never answer that. I have 2 boys and 1 girl, and they're all so different. Yeah, it's personality based. My son was the moodier one. My daughter, not at all. She never had a tantrum or anything. My son was more, and usually people say, oh, the girls are the moody ones. No, not at all. So yeah, I mean, they're all different, right? Is it bad to yell at a toddler? Yeah, it is. Yelling just makes you look weak. And yelling works short term. And sometimes it's all that works short term if you don't know what else to do. Like I've never yelled. I was never yelled at either. My mother had that look, and I had it too. It's that my mom, if she was sitting down, this is what she'd do. She just was so good. And I go, oops. But yeah, just the look, mom's look, we used to call it. And I had that too. So yeah, I never yelled. You're just yelling because you don't know what else to do. Just keep watching me. And that's what I teach. I teach you how not to yell, basically. Oh, I should do a video on that. How not to yell. How not to yell. So yelling is a short-term solution, but it backfires big time down the road. Yellers raise yellers. So yeah, if you yell. I did a video on this. I kind of regret it. It was one of my biggest videos. I might even kept it pinned, but I don't know if I did. It got like millions of views. And it was why you should never yell at your kids and what it does to them. And it builds something in them. People who grow up and take abuse, most of them have been yelled at when they're growing up. They've got a resistance to it. And they think it's acceptable. Yeah, it's quite interesting what yelling does to kids. So I went on about that a little bit. Kind of regret that, but it's important to know yelling is not good. But all my clients do it. So kids are pretty resilient. They can overcome this stuff. By the way, if you're going to hire me, don't come in with a bunch of guilt. Like, I'm not going to discuss it. I always say, you know what? If after we're finished, if you still feel guilty, then we'll talk about it. Guilt gets in your way. It prevents you from doing what you should be doing. You try to overcompensate for it. We don't do that. We just, rather than, here, you're going this way, we don't try and go like that. We just go, here's what you should be doing. We're not going to overcompensate for your past mistakes. We're just going to start where we should be. But yeah, guilt is one of my biggest challenges in my coaching, is helping parents get rid of the guilt. I get rid of it. It's not going to serve you at all. It's just going to make things harder. So get rid of it. Deal with it later if you still feel it. Once parents are good leaders, they're usually so proud of themselves, the guilt doesn't bother them anymore. That's the goal. Okay, when you ignore them, you get looks from everyone else. So when you're ignoring the tantrums, well, I'm going to tell you the mall story. I've told this story millions of times. Okay, not millions, thousands for sure. Anyway, the mall story was my son was 3 years old. It was his second to last tantrum. He had tantrums. My daughter never did. They're born to have them. They're either going to have them or they're never going to have them. Anyway, I never had one. I can't imagine. I remember when I was a little kid, and I remember I was tiny, and I looked at kids having tantrums, and I thought, what are you doing? I just thought they were nuts. I couldn't figure it out. Why would you do that? Like, I was so, my daughter had that same look, whereas my son would just have them. Anyway, he was the one that I would have been looking at. So anyway, we're in the mall, and we're just walking to the car, out to the parking lot, and my son and I. Nothing had happened. He just decides to throw himself on the ground and have a tantrum. I don't know. Anyway, so I pulled him off to the side so he was safe. And it was a loud, busy mall, so I wasn't disturbing anyone. And it wasn't a whopper tantrum, but it was still a tantrum. So here's me. I pulled out my nail file, and I'm just filing my nails. I'm not looking at them. I'm just filing my nails. It's important, and I would not use a phone or anything in that moment because it looks dismissive and rude. It's important that he sees me. I'm just waiting. It's like I'm waiting in a lineup. I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for the crazy to stop. I ignore the crazy and I reward the calm. He already knew this. That's why he only had one tantrum after this. He had more with his dad, but anyway, with me, he only had one more. Anyway, so while I'm doing this, I'm just ignoring the tantrum, just waiting. These young moms kept coming up to me. Oh, you should give him a hug. Talk about his feelings. I'm like, oh God, I don't know what the heck they're talking about. So anyway, I'm like, keep going, keep going. But all these grandmothers and older moms, like moms with older kids, kept coming up to me saying, good on you. You know what you're doing. This is the experience. Who are you going to listen to? The brand new moms are the experienced ones. So they got it. They got it. Sure enough, he didn't last long. He gets up and I said, oh, you all done? Okay, let's go. You don't discuss tantrums before, during, or after. Why would you? What's the point? What's the point? I'd like you to tell me that if you think you should. But anyway, so yeah, that was the second last time. I could have cared less what those. They didn't know what they were talking about. I knew what I was doing. Yeah, who cares what people think? You know what you're doing, and that gives your kids a real edge. If they think that you're going to be a different mom or dad when you're out, they're going to act out. I was 100% the exact same mother, no matter where we were. Could have been at home, at the gym, at school, on the ski slopes, on a plane, anywhere. I am mom, and I am 100% consistent. So that's why they were good everywhere. So yeah, I would have been. I was proud of how I was parenting, and I didn't care what the inexperienced moms thought about me. Could have cared less. But those grandmothers, that was great. They kept coming up to me. Because once a couple people do, a whole bunch of people do. Either no one ever comes up to you in public, or once one person does. It was really weird that day how I got all these people coming up to me. Anyway, if you know you're doing the right thing, here's my attitude. Hey, watch and learn. Like, that was my attitude. Did you allow people to tell your kids what to do in the middle of their moments? They never came near us. They could see that I knew what I was doing. So yeah, they wouldn't have come near me. Do you help nannies? No, I don't. But a lot of my clients are teachers, principals, child psychologists. And a lot of it is transferable, but a lot of it isn't. Like, I couldn't do their jobs at all. And parenting is my it's the parent-child relationship is my specialty, right? So, and that's not their specialty. So you can be a child psychologist and still struggle with parenting. It's personal. It's different. It's just different from any other relationship. They are a reflection of you, those children. Nobody else is. Not your spouse. Nobody else is. Just hate the looks and comments people give you when your kids are screaming. Yeah, but I don't know what to tell you. So that's just your own battle. If you look insecure, because I was so confident, like, if anyone tried to go near my kid, I'm dealing with it. Like, I would not have let anyone go near my kid. Like, it's just a body language thing too. No one would have done that with me. The Philippines, you've been here before, haven't you? Am I supposed to stare at them? Oh, you don't look at them. No, you don't. No eye contact, no touching, no talking. You're just standing. You only touch them if they get violent. You restrain them, but you still don't look at them or talk to them. It's important that they see you ignoring the tantrum, ignoring the crazy. You're not ignoring feelings in children. You're ignoring the tantrum. That's what you're doing. A tantrum is a process in a brain. A tantrum it has a start, it has a middle, and it has an end. If you interrupt that process, they're never going to learn. You got to let their brain process a whole tantrum all by themselves. You cannot regulate someone else's brain. I know they talk about it all the time. I know everyone else out there talks about it. Self-regulate, because people tell me they do. I don't look at anybody else. I stay in my own lane. I'm very careful about that. You got to teach toddlers how to self-regulate. What? How do you go into someone? They open up the brain, they turn a dial. What the heck are they talking about? They learn that organically on their own. Their brain processes it. How do you? And you're stopping the processing. Think about it. Their brain is processing a tantrum. They're learning how to, this ain't working, I may as well not do it anymore. As soon as you interrupt it, it worked. It's stopped. Their whole process has completely stopped. You've interrupted that whole process. It's ridiculous. Yeah, when you stop, you delay it. Yeah. Oh, good for you that you took that on. A lot of people argue with me with that. And I always say, if you don't like what I'm saying, just go somewhere else, because you probably never will. And that's fine. But you have to understand that the brain is its own entity. You cannot go into someone else's brain and tweak it, and it's impossible. Giving it attention also makes them tantrum more. Of course. One of my favorite videos, it's probably 10 or 20 years old now, it's so old, is that one where this little kid was tantruming, about 2 years old. The mom left the room and she was videoing when she left, and he stopped tantruming, got up, walked to where she was, looked at her, and then threw himself on the ground again. And kids don't tantrum when they're alone. They only tantrum for attention or to get what they want. That's it. If you don't feed it, it just stops. It's an organic process. It just eventually stops. Not that tantrum, but they will stop. That if you get good at ignoring tantrums and not feeding them, they will lessen in, God, why do I always forget that one word? Duration. It's so frustrating. I used to have a note up there. It's the word duration. I just can never think of it. So the better you get at ignoring tantrums, they will start to lessen in duration, intensity, and frequency. If you keep feeding it and trying to get involved in it, trying to self-regulate by turning dials in their brain, it's just going to go nuts, right? It's never going to end. because then the tantrum becomes your problem and not theirs. You want them to understand, hey, wait, I've got to take some responsibility here. And they will. You're teaching them how to be self-disciplining, responsible, accountable. It's part of tantrums are the first step in that. I'm a full-time nanny. Parents are not involved. Love your advice. Yeah, a lot of, oh, I can't go on about this, but I've been hired by some very famous people who have, per child, they have 3 nannies, 8-hour shifts, 3 nannies per child. And if they have more than 1 child, they'll have 6 nannies or more. And first thing I say is the nannies can't be in on this session. And yeah, they don't all like that. That's okay by me. I teach parenting, not nannying, but a lot of it crosses over. You can still get some ideas from me, but parenting is really what I teach. What if the tantrum is leaving the room and hiding? I don't know what you mean. They very rarely do that. They very rarely will leave. They will rarely go somewhere else while they're having a tantrum. It's extremely rare, unless they're going to kick up a storm, unless they're going to do some destructive stuff. So I don't know why they're leaving the room and hiding. That I don't know why. I'd be interested to find out why they do that. I could figure that out if you want to hire me. But yeah, that doesn't compute with me. I don't get why they would do that. Because if they're afraid of you, they usually hide out of fear. If they're afraid of you, they wouldn't be tantruming in the first place. So why are they, or else maybe they have been disciplined or something's been done to them during a tantrum, so they try and leave the room so that you don't do that to them again. I'm just trying to figure it out. It doesn't add up to me why they would do that. Like it's unusual. Oh, and then as soon as they're done with the tantrum, as I said at the mall, this is what I do. Like my son finished his tantrum. Oh, you all done? So in other words, oh, you all done? Like now I'll talk to you. Oh, you all done? Okay, let's go to the car now. And then I never brought it up. No anger, nothing. He was fine. Absolutely fine. I'm going to tell the swing story. It's such a good one, how to manage tantrums. So ignore the tantrum and let them come to you. They might not. Don't worry about that. They might not. Anyway, I'm going to tell you the swing story. It's such a good one. Then I got to go. The swing story is, it's not my favorite story. The pool story is my favorite one. But this one, swing story, is a tantrum one. Anyway, the pool story is my favorite because it's more about connecting. But anyway, that's older kids. So anyway, the swing story. It's a true story. My son was 2 years old. I took him to the park. And we get there, and there's just me and another mom and her 2-year-old boy. So I didn't know her. And we're just introduced. She was new in the neighborhood. We're just introducing ourselves as we're putting our 2-year-old boys on the swings. 2 swings, 2 boys. Put them on swings. And they both at the same time pointed to the other swing, like they wanted the other one. So we're like, well, let's just switch them because we're still chatting. Let's just, who cares, right? Let's just switch them over. And they both started tantruming right away, instantly. Then we both took our little boys to a bench. She sat down. She was talking to her little boy the whole time. And you know you shouldn't have done that. And come and give me a hug. And oh, good. Anyway, so my son's sitting beside me. He went to run for the swing. I put my arm out just to stop him. And then he just went like that. And he cried. He didn't go on for very long. He had bigger tantrums. This one wasn't huge, but it was a tantrum. So anyway, he's crying. And so I'm completely ignoring him. And anyway, about 2 minutes later, he's finished. And I said, oh, y'all done? Okay, let's go back on the swing. So we went on the swing. He's having a great time. For about 20 minutes, she's trying to calm her little boy down by talking to him, giving him a hug, and then telling him what he did wrong. She's completely stopping his brain from processing, maybe I should shut up and just get over it and I'll get on the swing, right? She didn't allow that process to happen. She was stopping him. She was wrecking him. Poor little boy. Anyway, so about 20 minutes later, he finally stopped the tantrum. Then he's doing the hiccup cries because he's so upset. He's been going on for 20 minutes. Then he doesn't even get back on the swing then. Then the next 10 minutes, she's discussing with him everything he did wrong and everything he should have done right. And I love you, and you know you should have done that. You know you should have done this and that. That poor kid, 30 minutes of absolute misery. My son had 2 minutes of misery, and then he's back on the swing. Which one is better? You get that? You get the difference there? My kid, you ignore the crazy, reward the calm. He learned that. He knew that. So he knew as soon as I shut up, mom's going to put me back on the swing. He knew that. Her kid knew even if he stopped tantruming, he's not getting back on that swing. He's going to get a lecture. He's going to get a mini therapy session. That poor child was borderline abuse. Anyway, I got to get going. Thanks so much. And when I say abuse, I'm making fun of that. She did the best she knew how. Okay. Every parent does the best they know how. They don't always do the best they can. They can do better, but they just don't know, right? No one is handed a baby in the hospital and looks at them and says, I'm going to mess you up. Everyone is going to do the best they know how. I'm just trying to give you some more information so you can do better. That's all. Anyway, I got to get going. Thanks so much for watching. And I'll be back again Tuesday night at 7 my time. That is Vancouver time, LA time. And go in the link above if you want more. I've got my coaching, my courses, and my free behavior board. Thanks again. We'll talk soon. Bye now. Hi, DJ Smokey. Hello.